Okay, so what we're going to be working on today, guys, is your effects of toxins project. All right, it's your first research project for this course. We've got like 2 or maybe 3, okay, throughout the whole course, so it's not something we do very often. But in this case, it's something valid because what we want to do is we want to examine the effects of the chemical stuff we've learned about on not just individual people, but on our society in general. Okay, so while it sounds like this project is on a chemical and we got to talk all about the chemical, that's only half of it. Okay, half of this project is my chemical does this, my chemical is ionic, blah blah blah. Okay, but the other half of it is here's how it affects everybody. All right. The example I'll give you is, let's say, like nicotine. Okay, nicotine is a toxin. Okay, it's incredibly toxic. In fact, if you took even a few milligrams of pure nicotine, it would kill you outright. Okay, it's that poisonous. That's why I can't understand why people would smoke. But anyway, that's another topic. Okay, nicotine is highly toxic, but I don't smoke. So why does it concern me? Okay, secondhand smoke. We've kind of taken care of that too. I mean, really, I don't know where people who smoke go anymore because you can't smoke anywhere where there's another person. Right? I mean, here at the school, you got to walk all the way down until you're off school property, like the end of the fence. You got to walk like 400 meters. Okay? Not right now, this time of year it ain't bad. January, 40 below, you better really enjoy that cigarette. Okay? Because you're going to be out there in the cold to smoke it. Right? So yeah, secondhand smoke is certainly a concern, but it was such a concern that we eliminated it as a problem. You can't smoke indoors, you can't smoke in public places, restaurants, and that was the dumbest thing ever. Okay? Being able to smoke in a restaurant because there was a smoking section and a non-smoking section, which in my mind is like having a peeing and a non-peeing section in a pool. It gets everywhere. It's not like it was all, sequestered and everything in one spot. So we eliminated that because it was a societal problem. I've chosen to live a healthier lifestyle by not smoking. Why should I inhale your smoke? Okay, so we took care of that. We took measures to make sure of that. In fact, just recently, they passed a law that says you cannot smoke in a car if there's a minor in the car. And I don't mean someone who goes underground and gets coal. I mean like a minor who's under 18. Okay, if you have a small child in the car, you can't smoke in the car. I mean, apparently we're getting to the point where we legislate common sense. Okay, I mean it would have been common sense to not do that anyway. But okay, so these are societal effects. Okay, society has said we value these things, therefore we're taking these measures. All right, so there are societal effects of certain toxins. Okay, other things could be maybe some toxins cause people to engage in criminal behavior. Okay, and while you or I probably don't inject heroin, okay, we still might be affected by someone who is addicted to it, let's say robbing us on the street so that they have enough money to get their fix. Okay, that's a societal effect. I'm not directly affected by it until something like that happens. All right, and then when they get caught and go to jail, even if I wasn't the person who was mugged, I'm still indirectly affected by it because who pays for prisons? Taxes. That's us. All right, we pay to house people who engage in criminal behaviors. We want to get them out of regular society so they don't hurt people, so we put them away. Okay? Well, that costs money. It costs money to have people in prison. Healthcare costs money. Right? Any toxin that causes someone to get sick, whether it's by choice or not, costs us money. Whether it was us directly who was affected by it or not, it still costs us money, especially when it comes to healthcare. Right? Healthcare in Alberta is over $1 billion a day endeavor. Okay? You think about it. How many hospitals are there in this province? A lot. Basically, there's 5 major hospitals in Calgary alone. All right, there's one in High River. There's another one in Black Diamond. Right, lots of little tiny small towns that are isolated have their own hospitals. Well, you got at least one doctor, if not a couple of doctors on staff there, a bunch of nurses, okay? You got other kinds of lab professionals and techs. You got to transport samples from place to place. You got ambulances. It's a lot of money to run healthcare in this province, and that's funded by society, by our taxes. You guys kind of follow the, okay? It's convoluted, but toxins, chemicals, can affect everybody, even if you don't directly take them or, get some sort of health problem due to them. Okay, someone else does, and we as Canadians believe it's our responsibility to take care of each other. Okay, that's why healthcare is the way it is in Canada. Okay, we believe it's our responsibility to take care of each other. The states, they don't really believe that, but now they kind of do it. Their healthcare is a lot different. Okay, most of the time in the states, you just go to the hospital and then you mortgage your house to pay for your hospital bill. Okay, it costs a lot of money to be sick. Okay, and so we in Canada believe that you shouldn't be financially ruined because you got sick. Right, so it's different line of thinking. All right, so in this project, we are to examine the long-term effect of exposure to a toxic chemical. Okay, now we say long-term, but you might also want to talk about the short-term effects. All right, if it causes, if let's say you, I don't know, anyone watch that show Moonshiners on the National Geographic Channel? It's kind of funny. It's like redneck engineering. But I mean, if you were to not make moonshine properly, it would be full of what's called methyl alcohol, which basically means you get really drunk and go blind. That would be a short-term effect with long-term consequences. Okay, so things like that. You might want to talk about both short and long-term effects of the toxic chemical. So that includes not only the health effects of the chemical on the people exposed, but also the societal effects. Okay, so remember, okay, we are looking at like half and half. Okay, half your project needs to be on the nature of the chemical and what it does. The other half is the societal effect. All right, so by societal costs, we've talked about those: healthcare, taxation, government regulations, etc. All right, we use smoking as an example of some government regulations. Right, additional government regulations could be whether it is legal to possess the material or not. Is it hard to get your hands on this material? For example, a lot of the stuff in the lab, we have to send in a school code, government permit, all that kind of stuff to even order some of that material, right? Because some of it can be precursors to building other things, right? And so we have to say, hey, you know what? We're using this for a legal purpose, blah, blah, blah. This is why we have to have it, okay? So there's paperwork that you go through to get some things. They're called controlled substances, right? Usually people hear that term in reference to drugs, but drugs are also controlled substances. Sometimes it's legal to possess certain drugs and sometimes it's not. All right. Okay. Like for example, we hear that all the time. Drugstores are getting broken into, so people steal like the oxycodone and stuff like that. Okay. Well, if you have a prescription for oxycodone, it's legal. Okay. If you don't, then it's not. It's a controlled substance. Everyone follow? Okay. All right. So we want to look at impacts of people using or being exposed to this chemical. Are there behavioral costs? Are there things people do while under the influence of this chemical, okay, that might cause problems? Addiction treatment, emotional impacts, etc. Okay. Obviously, even if you are not maybe a drug user, you might still be affected by those who do. Okay. So the scope of this paper goes beyond an examination of health issues. Yes, we do want to examine those, right? But it also needs to encompass the societal effects as well. Some suggestions for your project could be health hazards due to excessive consumption of alcohol and nicotine or other drugs, exposure to toxic substances. This one I put in just for a laugh. Mercury and amalgam dental fillings. Okay, you guys probably don't have amalgam dental fillings. I have one. Okay, they're the metal ones, the silver ones. Your parents might actually have some of those. Okay, there was this big scam about 10, 12 years ago where these dentists in the United States told people they were going to die because they had mercury in their fillings. Okay, and that they were slowly being poisoned by their dental work. Okay. Well, it's believable because a dentist, who is someone you respect, says that this stuff is bad for you. Everyone knows mercury isn't good for you, right? And so people were concerned. Here's the thing. Those guys are in jail now for fraud because there's more mercury in a can of tuna than there is in a dental filling. And last time I checked, my filling is the same size it was when I got it put in years and years before any of you were born. Okay, it's not dissolving in my mouth. Okay, if I were to swallow it, it probably wouldn't hurt me because it would just go through. Okay, and yeah, I'm not going to be able to digest my filling. That's the whole purpose of putting it in my teeth. But people bought it, and they went in and they got all kinds of expensive, painful dental work done. Okay, to get these things pulled out and replaced with ceramic fillings, which is probably what any of you have, if you even have fillings. Okay, so that's kind of a farcical one, but it's a place where you could be exposed to something in your daily life through no fault of your own. Okay, radon buildup in homes. I've had a few people who've done the toxins that toxic mold releases, okay, and how those can affect you, things like that. All right, so you don't necessarily have to do this on drugs. All right, it can be on any toxin, okay, that you could be exposed to. All right, environmental concerns related to the handling, storage, and disposal of heavy metals. Okay, this doesn't necessarily need to be an effect on people. It could also be an effect on the environment. Okay, there's societal costs to that as well. All right, so we could be looking at, if stuff is leaching into groundwater, or if it's getting into rivers, and how is it affecting, drinking water or animals or whatever. Okay, so things like that. Anything that you've got an interest in, just know this. It does need to be a chemical toxin. All right, it can't be a bacteria. Okay, as I had one person who did their whole project on E. coli. Okay, E. coli is a bacteria, and while it releases a toxin, that isn't how they talked about it. They talked about the bacteria, and that's like more for the next unit. Okay, so it does need to be a chemical toxin that is toxic by its chemical nature. Right? I also had a person who did theirs on plutonium. Okay, plutonium is not chemically toxic. It's radioactively toxic, and that's different. Okay, so this does need to be a chemical toxin. All right. On that same note, if you're going to choose to do your report on drugs, you do need to pick the active chemical ingredient within drugs. Okay, so I had one person, they did theirs on marijuana, and they're like, "Here's my whole project's on marijuana." Well, marijuana is a plant. Okay, marijuana is a plant. It's not good for you. Okay, it's a plant, but they needed to do their project on the active chemical ingredient THC. Okay, and then talk about that effect. Everyone follow me there? Okay, so make sure you isolate it down. All right, so the outline. In your project, you need to report on the chemical nature of your toxin. Okay, what type of chemical is it? Is it ionic, molecular, organic? Probably a lot of them will be organic. Okay, how is its chemical structure related to its toxicity? What is it about it that makes it toxic? Is it highly acidic and as a result dissolves tissue, or what does it do? Okay, how does it cause damage to human tissue? Okay, does it destroy nerve connections? Does it interfere with metabolism? Okay, things like that. How does it affect your body? Okay, that kind of goes in with what are its toxic effects, and then obviously what symptoms may a victim exhibit. Okay. In terms of the societal effects, okay, we've talked about some of those already. Is the exposure by choice? Is it in the workplace? Is it in nature? Okay, what are the costs? And I don't mean a dollar figure here. Okay, so don't tell me a dollar figure, because those are really hard to find anyway, and you'll spend a lot of time looking for it, and it's really not worth your time. Okay, what I mean are things like, if this toxin is out there and you end up getting sick, how quickly do you get into the hospital? If you need an MRI, how long does it take? If more and more people are exposed to this, does the wait time for everything increase? Okay, we know at least in Alberta, that's a pretty big problem. Right? You need an MRI, you might have to wait a really long time for it, several months often. Okay, there's wait times for surgeries. Okay, I mean, there's people that need hip replacements and they wait sometimes so long that they die before they get it. Okay, we know that wait times are a big deal, and the more people that are making demands on the system, the longer those wait times are going to be. Okay, so that's something to think about too. So load on hospitals, man hours lost to illness. Okay, that's a big one for businesses. Okay, you actually have to budget in business towards knowing how many days the average person is going to miss in a year due to being sick, because it costs you money. All right, give you a case in point. If I'm sick, okay, like tomorrow, I'm not going to be here. All right, I still get paid for tomorrow. All right, but so does the sub who's here. Does that cost the school extra money? costs them almost twice as much that day. All right. So when I'm sick, okay, well then that's what happens. Okay, it costs extra money for people to be away from work. In addition to the fact that maybe they were working on something that had a deadline and they're going to miss the deadline, and now that's going to cost the company money. There's all kinds of things with missing work. That's kind of a big deal and ends up being a load on society. Okay, treatment centers. Okay, cost money to build those. Imaging facilities cost money to build those. Okay, that's all coming out of taxes and thus society in general. Okay, does the government have regulations on the toxin? Are there exposure limits? Age regulations? Is it legal to possess the substance? Are there special disposal requirements? Okay, like for example, when we did our compounds lab, we didn't wash that stuff down the sink. Okay, it went into the waste bucket. The waste bucket eventually ends up at Swan Hills, I think, where it's incinerated. Or okay, anyway, it doesn't go down the sink because then it would end up in the river. All right, so we can't do things like that. And then lastly, based on what you learned about this toxin, what are your feelings on it? Okay, should it be banned if it isn't already? Should there be greater restrictions, regulations put on its use, disposal, etc.? Okay, questions on what's expected for the report part of it. Okay, like I said, that can be either like a Google Slides / PowerPoint kind of thing, or it can be like a written report in Google Docs. Okay, that part is up to you. Next question. I'll talk about that in just a second. Yeah. Okay. Next thing, citing references. Okay, you're going to be using other people's work, obviously, to get your information. Right? So you need to cite it in a bibliography at the end of your report. There's a certain format that needs to be done in. All right? So this is really, really, really important. Okay? When you get your information from a book, you cite it this way. Probably not many of you are going to use a book. Most of you will probably use the internet. Okay? So here's what I'm looking for when you cite your reference. So at the end of your report, you'll have bibliography, and then you'll have the references you used. Author's name. Oddly, probably the hardest thing to find anymore. All right. So McElroy Ann. Okay. The date that particular article was posted. You can usually find that. Okay. Usually it's right on top of the article, posted this day or whatever. Okay. If you can't find that, then it was the last day that particular website was updated. Okay. That you can usually find on the home page. Then the name of the article, in this case it's Vive le Quebec, Vive le Canada. Then the name of the website, okay? In this case it was the Daily News. Then the URL, www.ipromiseiwon'tstealthispersonsworkwithoutcitingthem.com, okay? And then the day you accessed it, that would be September 21st, 2015. 20 years after that one, okay? Everybody with me so far? Yeah? Okay, and that's what you need to have. Okay, you need to have at least 5 references. Okay, now when you go on the internet and you're looking for information, make sure you are discerning about where you get your information from. Okay, Crackpot Joe's website about crack is probably not a reliable website. Okay, about crack. All right, because he's a crackpot. All right, and he's probably just lives in his mom's garage and he likes to spout off on his blog all day. Okay, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for valid scientific stuff, university websites, government websites, research papers, things like that. Okay, I caution you also against the use of Wikipedia. All right, because anybody can put stuff on Wikipedia, and their fact checkers are like 10 years behind. Okay. I had a kid who did this project like 6 or 7 years ago now, and in the history of crystal meth, it said in there, Adolf Hitler died of a crystal meth overdose. Okay? And that's, Adolf Hitler died of an acute case of Luger blowing back of head off. Okay? Right? He didn't die of a crystal meth overdose. So you really have to watch Wikipedia. I would caution you against using it at all. Because sometimes people just put stuff on there and the fact checkers don't get around to taking it off. Okay, so I would caution you against its use. Right, question? First time. Yeah, first time you accessed it. Because you'll probably go back. You're right, you'll probably go back and forth for things. First time you accessed it is fine. Yeah, so make sure you have that at the end. That's 5 marks. Okay, 5 marks out of 25 is your bibliography, and format counts. Okay, if I don't see all of this information, right, you're going to lose marks. And oftentimes what I see, even though I make a big deal out of this and I tell you here's how you do it, okay, people do this. And in the references cited section, they have www.google.com, www. I didn't listen to Mr. Coder and I willingly will accept 1 out of 5 from a bibliography.com, www. I wish I'd listened better in class.com, right? That's all they put is these URLs, and that's it. Okay, that's not good enough. Okay, that's not a bibliography. Now, if you can't find the author's name, you've worked really, really hard, but you absolutely can't find it. That happens sometimes. A, question that website. Okay, if the person's not willing to put their name to it, it's questionable. Okay. Secondly, if you think it's reliable but can't find it, then you can put unknown or various contributors. Okay, it might be multiple contributors. There may be several people who wrote the article. Okay, so you can write that. But if I see 5 references with that, okay, as the author's name, I'm going to know you didn't try hard enough. Question? Yes, any website you take information from needs to be cited. So you may have more than 5. Okay, the minimum is 5. You know. No, you should be able to find a date. Okay, if you can't find it for that specific article, and that's almost always included in the article is the date of publication, then go to the home page and look for the last day updated or any copyright dates that you can find. Okay, other questions on the citing of references? Right. Planning, 5 marks for planning. Okay, what I want to see for planning is a timeline. Okay, so you can put today, September 21st. Started research, blah, blah, blah. Do whatever you did today. Okay, plan ahead. Okay, I want to see all the times you plan on it. Okay, maybe you work on it a couple of additional times. Just write in there. Oh, you know, I had a half an hour on September 24th, so I sat down and worked on it for a half an hour. Okay, I want to see a timeline of when you plan to work on it, when you do actually work on it. That needs to be part of the planning. The second thing that needs to be in the planning is either an outline or thought web. Okay, either one will do, whichever way makes more sense to you. Okay, but you do need to show that you thought about how you were going to lay out this report in advance. Okay, if you don't do that beforehand, fake it after. But it needs to be there. If you don't have it, it's going to cost you marks. Your planning's worth 5 marks. All right, everybody clear on that? Okay. Okay. So in this project, range of formats are acceptable. Well, obviously you won't be using PowerPoint because you got the Google Slides there. Okay, essays, written or video. Since you're doing this one on your own, don't do a video. It's way, way too much work. Right? It's way too much work by yourself. When we do one of the group ones, you might want to try it then. Okay. If you have another format in mind, run your idea past me. But posters and pamphlets and stuff are not gonna get it done. Okay. Scope. It's going to require some work. You're going to get 2 class periods today and tomorrow to work on it. Okay, your project needs to be between 800 and 1,000 words minimum. You cannot do a very good job of this report in 800 words. You can get it done, but you're not going to do a very good job of it in 800 words. Incidentally, the bibliography is not included in that word count. All right, because yeah, that's yeah. Okay, so make sure that, and 800 words, guys, to give you an idea, 800 words, single space, 10-point font is just over a page, like a page and 3 lines. Okay, that's not enough to do a really good job of what you need to do in this report. Right? Most of the time, people do a good job in this report with about 1,500 words. Okay, 1,500 words is a page and 2/3. Okay, single spaced, 12-point font, 1-inch margins. Okay, something like that. Now, that said, if your report is 5,000 words, I'm probably going to get bored. And if I get bored, I skip to the end and check your bibliography. So yeah, don't do that. Okay? Yeah. Get it done, but get it done, and this is not a graduate level thesis. Okay? It does not need to be looking like it was your life's work. All right? Okay. So you're going to be evaluated in 5 categories: initiating and planning, 5 marks. Okay, category is going to mark basically your thought web, your timeline, and anything else you did in terms of planning. Okay, so that's an easy 5 marks. Analysis and interpretation, that's what you say in the report. Is it factual? Does it make sense? Okay, stuff like that. Communication, how well do you communicate your ideas in your project? What I mean by that is, when I read your project, does it make sense? All right, does it sound like a 15, 16-year-old wrote it? Okay, does it flow well? All right, there's like, what do they call those? Paragraphs, okay, and sentences, periods and punctuation and all that kind of stuff. You'd be surprised what I see. I once saw a 1,200 word sentence. There was a period at the end. Okay? Yeah. It was the strangest thing ever. All right? I can't believe that the grammar checker wasn't having an absolute conniption fit on that person, but that's what it was. Okay? And it was like perfectly justified all the way along. It's like, wow. All right? So make sure you got that kind of stuff in there, okay? On the other side of that, it shouldn't sound like my 5-year-old wrote it either. Okay? It should sound like a 15, 16-year-old. It should also not sound like someone who's been doing research on, addictive drugs for their entire life wrote it. Because if I don't understand what it's saying, I know you didn't write it. Okay? So yeah, make sure it sounds like you wrote it because you did. Okay? On that note, plagiarism is bad. Okay? Plagiarism is bad. We cannot copy and paste people's stuff. All right? There's a real tendency for people to do that these days because it's so incredibly easy. I'll know if you do it. Okay? Let's put it that way. If I have any suspicion that that's what has happened, it is incredibly easy for me to confirm that suspicion. If I confirm that suspicion, what do you suppose you'll get for a mark? Yeah, and you don't want that. And I don't want to have to give that to you. Right? But at the same time, you won't learn anything if you just copy and paste somebody else's stuff. Okay? So you read it, you think about what it says, okay, and then you apply it to your stuff in your words. All right? Is everybody clear on that one? Okay? Really, every semester I probably have to do it 2 or 3 times. Okay? Even though I give this spiel, okay, 2 or 3 times I'll catch people doing it. Okay? So please don't do it. All right? Because you're not going to learn anything from it, and if you get caught, it's really going to cost you marks big time. Okay. Incidentally, if you get in a habit of doing that, it really costs you when you get to post-secondary. Okay. I had a guy who was in my dorm, my residence at university, and he got caught, and he got thrown out of university. No refund on his tuition, and that follows you around like a criminal record. He couldn't get into another university because they all saw that he'd been kicked out of the U of A for plagiarism. So yeah, his hopes and dreams of having a post-secondary education were toast, right? Because he chose to copy a report because he didn't get it done on time. Okay, so yeah, you don't want to do that. It's all bad. Okay, research and investigation. Did you use your time effectively? Do your sources come from a variety of places and viewpoints? Okay, were all the parts of the project investigated thoroughly? Sources cited properly and in a bibliography? And lastly, overall, what impression does your project make? Are there spelling mistakes? Does the presentation show that this project was something you're proud to say you worked on? There should also be pictures in there, okay? So you can copy and paste the picture, obviously, all right? But then you have to cite the web page you got the picture from, all right? And a picture is not worth 1,000 words. Someone tried that once, okay? Picture is not worth 1,000 words, okay? All right. So yeah, if you put some pictures in there, because pictures help me to not get bored. So put pretty pictures in there. Okay, graphs, okay, or diagrams, something like that. No, the website they came from. Yeah. Okay. So usually it says underneath the picture photo credit, it'll usually say right under who took the picture. That's your author then for the picture. If it doesn't say that, then you say photographer unknown and you cite the rest of it. Okay, same as up here. Okay, just so the name of the article, name of the website, etc. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, there's rubrics on the Google Doc as well as on that PDF that'll show you how you're being marked. Okay, those are the ones that I'll use when I'm going through your lab report. Okay, all right. You've still got in class today a little over 40 minutes, okay, to work. And tomorrow you'll be headed to the library. You'll have all of class period to work on it there. All right? Okay. If you got questions, let me know.